come January, Affordable Care Act members' rates will go up based on the amount of services and prescriptions individuals use, but also for something else.
If you were in that pool and you actually knew that's what was happening, it would feel unfair.
Wellmark has about 2 million insurance members. 19,000 of those are Affordable Care Act members. But of the 19,000, 53 of those individuals are partially responsible for the increase in rates.
So you've joined the affordable health care system. You're thrilled at your coverage and the low, low price you're now paying to get medical assistance. And you've tossed off all those naysayers who screamed about your premium price in the second year as nothing more than scare tactics. Welcome, as Morpheus might say, to the real world. Welcome to MidPoint, national affairs columnist for National Review Online, author and former member of the Wall Street Journal editorial board. John Funn joins us today. John, good to see you again.
Thank you.
John, is this one of the greatest bait and switch moves ever in American political history?
Well, premiums are going up for everyone around the country, but in some states less than others. There are about 8 states that are really getting whacked. And the irony is those are states where Democratic Senate candidates are most vulnerable to Republican attacks on Obamacare. We're talking about Iowa, we're talking about Louisiana, we're talking about Kansas, we're talking about Alaska. Those are the states that are seeing double-digit, very high double-digit insurance premium increases. And of course, Republicans are going to go after Democratic candidates who voted for or supported Obamacare and saying, tag, you're it.
Well, the president now and the administration saying they will not release any more rate increases or any information on the rate increases until after the November 4th election. Shocked, I think, is a prime word for it, but let's look at this strategically. Just the fact that this comes out in the media right now is enough fodder for the Republicans seeking to get back at the president, seeking to go after the Democrats, because the numbers are out here right now. Might it not be better if just the administration said, look, here it is, face it, it's done, let's move on?
Well, the administration didn't have confidence as to what would happen in the rollout to Obamacare. Remember, a year ago, Obamacare was looking very, very shaky. So they put the new enrollment date after the election to give themselves some insurance policy of their own politically. And that was November 15th. So they'd either have to violate that or try to, do selective leaks, but nobody would believe them because they'd be selective. The bottom line is a lot of voters are going to go to the polls not knowing how much their insurance premiums are going up. They may just go up a little, but they could go up a whole lot. And I think nervous voters tend to act nervously. That means they tend to vote against incumbents in the party in power.
John, your opinion, though, will this really be something that the Republicans now in all these midterm states are going to hammer away on? Because certainly we have an administration right now that is looking terrible when it comes to what's happening overseas in the battle against ISIS. They're looking terrible when it comes down to the Ebola fight that's going on now here in America, the sending of troops overseas. Is this really something that the American people will latch on to?
Again, I think it varies from state to state and based on individual circumstances. I think it's pretty clear that Obamacare didn't become the dominant issue in the midterm elections. Some people thought it did when the website disaster occurred a year ago. On the other hand, it's sort of like a nagging fever. Lots of people still oppose Obamacare. Support for it hasn't gone up at all. So I think it will be a contributing factor, but clearly it's not in the headlines, and clearly it's not the most pressing issue people have, which despite the fears that you mentioned, is still a very sluggish economy and slow economic growth.
I think that's what's going to be the key, don't you? If Republicans go ahead and take this and show, look, your premiums are going up, number one, but look what it's doing to your bottom line, and look what it's adding to your monthly costs, and look at how you're having to pay all this now out of pocket. That would seem to be the right tack to take here.
Well, everyone is treading water, and everyone, even if their own insurance situation is okay, they probably know a friend, a neighbor, or a relative who has had health insurance problems, or maybe they've been dropped by their plan, or maybe they've been cut back to 29 hours a week by some businesses who then don't have to offer them health insurance. So the nervousness ripples out from the individual, not necessarily because they're in trouble, but because they're worried I could be next.
Bad news for the president, huh, John?
Not great. And it's interesting. The president canceled his political appearances today in Connecticut and New Jersey. The joke going around is that was done at the request of the candidates he was visiting.
What a
not
stunner.
Because of Ebola.
It's a good thing he's not showing up in Alaska, Louisiana, or Iowa today. That would even be more entertaining, I think, at that point. John, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
All right, later on this hour, trek with us to Outland, where the price is not necessarily always right. And after the break, some reality brought to the fore about a village in Syria that is worth defending and the reasons why it cannot fall into the hands of ISIS. That and so much more coming up, and we continue right here on Midpoint.